Okay. What's up? And the chat still isn't working.
How did you get your software doing?
For 2024 for Office,
Yeah, what you was talking about.
I um I got it through TechSoup. I
Oh,
bought a license through TechSoup, and then they made it difficult. Microsoft made it difficult for you to install. You can't just, run an exe and install it that way. You have to use a script to install it. They did that since 2020 to dissuade people from buying the standalone Office. They want to move everybody to 365. I don't want to use 365.
what you mean a script?
So you have to write a script is like a mini program.
Hmm.
and then you load the script into Microsoft install program, and then it reads that script and then installs the Office program for you. You
Even though
can't,
they sell you the lifetime,
even though they what?
even though they sell you the lifetime software.
Yeah, that for just the standalone install. So if you don't want to use the 365, you can buy Office 2020 or Office 2024. But they made it more difficult for you to install it. In other words, they changed it so that you need an IT person to install it. You can't
Oh,
just
okay.
install it yourself by clicking a setup program like you could with 2016.
Because I hate 365.
Yeah, I don't use 365. Only for us when we're doing online editing together. But
Yeah.
other than that, I just use the
But it
standalone.
doesn't have all the features program. You know that, right?
Yeah, 365. Yeah, I know. That's why I don't use it. But
Yeah.
but they're trying to push everybody to it. See, I don't know if they're gonna after 2024, I don't know if they're gonna make another standalone Office. They may just push everything to 365, and then you'll have no either have no choice or just use an older program that's out of date and no longer supported. So I think they're gonna drop support for 2016 after this year.
It helps AI. It helps all the AI programs to push everybody to an online service. Plus,
Hmm.
it helps their bottom line too. But
I cannot see how many people are currently viewing, but it looks like a few people have joined us. All right. So welcome everyone. I can't see the view count and I can't see the chat. I don't know what YouTube is doing. That's all right. Let's go ahead and start. Current news. And welcome everyone to another open discussion and various topics session. Hopefully everyone can see and hear me all right. That's similar to last week. The chat is a bit delayed, but I should be able to see eventually all of your messages. As usual, today's session is open discussion and various topics, so you are free to post any questions or comments you have in the chat. And we'll do our best to answer those for you. Let's open up today's session with a prayer for spiritual workers, and then we'll move right into a Q&A. Prayer for spiritual workers. Almighty God, I bless all those who, because of their limitations, would smite me. Almighty God, I bless all those who, because of their weakness, would not heed me. Almighty God, I bless all those who, because of their ignorance, would defile you through me. And I ask, Almighty God, O wondrous power, that your strength may be given to me now, so that I might be fortified by this, so that I might go forward bravely into the world, and despite reception, send forth my love of thee throughout all races of man. Almighty God, give me the power and strength to rise above my karmic weakness, the deficiencies in the pattern of my evolution, so that I might evolve and become stronger, I, and even stronger in thy everlasting light. O God, thy will be done. All right, once again, welcome everyone to another open discussion and various topic session. Again, have any questions or comments that you may have, feel free to post those in the chat. Oh, I can't. And we'll be Happy to respond to those and answer those for you. You also have the option of emailing questions to us. Mystic Knowledge Center, all one word, at gmail.com. And you can respond to your questions that way. I know someone last session asked, how can you participate in the live stream? The we had to change the way we do the live stream. In the past, we opened up the Zoom to everyone so they can jump in and um, participate in the Zoom, but we had to change that because there's a lot of Zoom bombing going on. So we had to set it so that only the facilitators will participate in the Zoom, but everyone else, if you want to participate in the conversation, you can do so via YouTube through the chat window. There was one announcement I wanted to make before, or just share something with everyone. Because I mentioned previously that I am working on putting together a small group of individuals who like to participate in either a monthly practice session, and the sessions will be based off of two primary sources, the ones being some of the books by Yogi Charaka. I think there's one of the book that I previewed a couple sessions ago on Raj Yoga, as well as a series that Mr. Davis gave a few years back on the mystic practices. I think you can preview a couple of the classes um, on YouTube, but I don't think all the classes are still available. I was going to do is re-upload those videos under private playlist, and those of us who are going through the practice group together will have access to those videos. But I want to share this. This was the back a few years ago when Mr. Davis did give that Mr. Techniques and Knowledge series. This was the handout that he had one of the handouts he had produced for that series, which was a outline of some of the mystic practices that he gave. It was broken down into multiple parts, about 6 or 7 parts. It was broken up into 7 parts, and part one consisted of 14 brief points for understanding the knowledge behind these mystic practices. So he started out with the mystic knowledge on the divine will and the creative principle of the universe, the creative principles of love energies, and so on. Started out with the theory behind the practices. Then in part two, he gave a description of the about 137, so quite a number of practices were shared in the series. Techniques for relaxing the body, techniques for controlling basic aspects of mind, um, mudra yoga techniques, pranayama techniques, mystic prayer techniques, uh, psychic visualization techniques, and techniques for spiritual healing, techniques to bring about degrees for splitting man's consciousness, techniques for psychic development. And then part three, he went further into additional techniques for spiritual development practices, including um, 12 different yogas: Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Pranayama, Hatha Yoga, Raja Yoga, Mantra Yoga, Mudra Yoga, Kriya Yoga, Tantra Yoga, Kundalini Yoga, and Laya Yoga practices. And then in part four, he broke down the 8 limbs of yoga and the keys used in all mystic practices, including yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. Notice that he, in many of Mr. Davis's classes, he's over those 8 limbs um, quite frequently. In fact, if you look at the methodology, teaching methodology of the International Mystic Knowledge Center, was a document he provided for us some time ago. I think it's also shared in our shared folder. Uh, Great stress and importance is put on the mystic constitution of man, and which further incorporates which incorporates the 8 limbs of yoga as well as other foundational teachings as part of the teaching methodology of the IMKC. So you'll see this repeated quite often um, in our in our materials and teachings. Part five goes on to the mystic practice of karma yoga, including the karmic use of nani, the karmic use of renunciation, yama, the karmic use of yama, the karmic use of niyama, and the karmic use of the 4 blended yogas, blended practice of Nana, Karma, Bhakti, and Raj, the karmic use of japa, the karmic use of asana, karmic use of pratyahara, the karmic use of dharana and or concentration, the karmic use of contemplation, and the karmic use of samyama. So this part is very important, especially to help us understand why the Kanzic masters um, um, gave such stress and importance to karma yoga, especially in this day and age. And in this part, Mr. Davis breaks that down and shows us how karma yoga is an important aspect of all yoga, of all action. Yoga being the right actions to bring about union with God. So karma and yoga is an essential aspect of all yogic action, of all action. Then in part six, so Davis goes into deeper about oh, sorry guys, I don't have the chat window open here, so I apologize if I missed your questions. But again, if you do have questions or comments, do feel free to post them in the chat and I will um, respond to them appropriately. In part six, we look at a series of Raja Yoga techniques designed to gain control over mental operations in man's mind as taught by Yogi Rama Charaka. So we looked at, I believe, an excerpt from chapters 1 and 2 of Yogi Rama Charaka's Raja Yoga book several series ago, and we'll also continue with that study of that book as we with the small group as we go through this series. So if we looked at lesson 1, the I, lesson 2, the ego's mental tools, lesson 3, the expansion of the self, lesson 4, mental control, lesson 5, the cultivation of attention, lesson 6, cultivation of perception, lesson 7, the unfoldment of consciousness. 6, 7, yeah, it's an 8, yeah, I'm sorry. The highlands and lowlands of mind. Lesson 9, the mental planes. Lesson 10, subconscious. Lesson 11, subconscious character building. And lesson 12, subconscious influences. And then finally, the final part, part 7, look at the sacred techniques of mantra sastra. And this was another important session part was we covered the rules for governing the techniques for using mantra. And yes, there are rules, there are laws that govern the use of mantra. I know it's very popular nowadays to just give out mantras in videos or songs or what have you. But there are strict laws governing the use of mantra. So there was one into techniques for tapping into the sacred power of mantra and techniques for placing the sacred mantras on the chakras. Looked at techniques for use for harnessing the power of mantra on the physical realm of existence, and then techniques used for harnessing the power of mantra on the mental realms of existence, and techniques used for harnessing the power of mantra on the psychic realms of existence. And it goes into mantra use for personal development using dynamic and soul measure techniques, and mantra used for personal protection. Now, dynamic and soul mantra techniques, these were techniques expounded by, well, expanded further and I guess you could say reintroduced to modern man by Dr. George King. I guess you could say that right, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dr. George, in his uh, mantra initiation album, Dynamic and Soul Mantra, Dr. George King initiates us into several mantras, uh, initiates us into the dynamic mantra technique, and then he initiates us further into a soul mantra techniques, including um, a particular mantra he put together that he created for us to use as well. And I would highly recommend picking up that album. Actually, let me show you exactly where you can get it. You can, well, let me make sure I'm correct first. Sure. I think it's available in the cloud. Yes, you can go to cloud.ethereus.org and there's, if I could spell. Okay. 1 second, guys. Yes, this is live, so let me end it here. I don't know if the album is still available on the shop where you can purchase the CDs because the CDs also came with a booklet written out the message. I don't know if it's still available, but I do know that in the cloud it is available. And I don't know if they send you. I don't know because you can purchase it separately. It's not part of the. I don't know if you guys can see my screen. If you go to cloud.ethereus.org and then you can just in the search bar here, you can type mantra. And this is one of the options that come up. This is not part of the subscription. It can be purchased separately. And you can see here you can add to cart and purchase separately, but I don't know if they send you a link to download the booklet that came with the um, initiation album and as they sold it in the past. I don't see it here on the main website. No. Okay. But I assume they do. Maybe I can check and confirm that for you. But when you purchase this, you are initiated into several mantras. And you're also given demonstrations on how to recite the mantras from several of Dr. Josh King's students who were there at the time when this recording was made. And these mantras can be used um, in all spiritual development practices, including healing. When you're sending out healing, both in contact healing or absentee healing, although when you're doing a contact healing, it's best not to verbally recite the mantra. You can recite the mantra in other ways while you're doing healing, contact healing. But in absentee healing, we use um, the mantras grant given to us by Dr. George King in this album. We also use the mantras in the 12 blessing practices and then so on and so on and so forth, and prayer power and so on. This is a good album to pick up and gives you, and he also goes into discussion on dynamic and soul mantra. And then so the finishing up with part 7, we look at the power of mantra japa techniques to achieve purity of the heart, steadying of the mind, destroying of the Shavaripus, the 6 enemies, breaking the cycle of rebirth, birth and death. Shama Mantra talks about burns up sins, scorches samskaras, annihilates attachment, induces viryaga, pronunciation, dispassion, it roots out all desires, it makes one fearless, removes delusion, excuse me, gives supreme peace, develops prema, divine love, unites the devotee with the Lord, gives health, wealth, strength, and long life, brings God consciousness, bestows eternal bliss, and best of all, awakens Kundalini. So this was the outline from the Mystic Practices series that Mr. Davis gave several years ago. Now, a lot of initiation and secret information was given during this series, and so it rightfully so, it was not free. There was a cost associated with attending this series. But since that series was recorded and placed on YouTube, at that time, YouTube offered a pay-per-view service. They've since then taken back that service or canceled that service, but did not give us an option to convert those videos to a new monetization system or just any other way of offering those videos. The service was no longer offered, so we couldn't remove it from the videos, but we couldn't remake the videos public or available because it was still locked under that legacy service. So no one can access those videos, even if you paid for them in the past. Well, what I would like to do is with a very small group of people, we can um, go through that series. I'll discuss with Mr. Davis too, and another way to maybe take them off YouTube and put them on a private site, a private platform that we're going to probably make in the future. I'll discuss with Mr. Davis, but with a small group of people, we'll get together and we'll use the Raja Yoga book from Yogi Amacharaka, as well as the Book of Mystic Practices series I was given, and an upcoming book that Mr. Davis is working on, which which also goes into the mystic practices as well. We'll go with it with the small group together, and then we'll see how it works out from there. I just want to give you guys a preview of what was done in the past and what we'll be potentially using with the small group. Okay, that's that. Let's hop back over to discussion, see if there are any questions.
I don't know if this thing is working. The
This
chat.
I see your message here. Hello, everyone. It's on my side. It's telling me there's an error with the chat, so I have to have the video open and looking at the chat like everybody else. But I only see your message come through.
Yeah, I don't think it's working.
Yeah, YouTube's been having some issues lately. Oh, yeah, it tells me that there's several people on currently viewing. If you guys can hear and see me all right, please um post something in the chat. Anything? Hello, hi. Just let me see if it's working. I can't see anything. Let's see that one.
Is it working?
I believe so.
Mhm. Okay, let's move on then.
Okay, is there something else you want to discuss?
No, it's up to you. But we could begin to go back through, the upcoming book, we can go through one of those chapters one by one before we publish them. Oh, through the class.
The Missing Constitution one?
Yeah.
Did have
Look at the best diagrams to go in there as well. Maybe divide that book up into maybe divide that book up into two parts or three parts. I don't know. But we probably can get a response from our audience too
hmm
if we share it or share parts of it from week to week.
Yeah, I can do that. I actually had some questions on a transmission,
Mm.
master theorist. Now become a builder of the new age. And let's see.
It's an old one. That's the one they made the book from, right? They,
Yes.
they made a book with it. Yeah.
And there was, well, they have an extract on the website, so I was gonna read that, but the part I wanted to ask questions about is not in the extract, but that's okay. Let me But I think this was, yeah, based off of an audio series of cosmic transmission given by the Master Theorist in Massachusetts. The mediumship with Dr. King explaining the prophesied new age of peace and enlightenment will only come about on Earth if people work hard enough to make it happen. Also includes a beautiful prayer for spiritual strength to enable us to be of greater service to others. And so in the transmission, I'm going to read some of the extracts from it. So, my friends, there's only one way the new age can come and can endure. That is by man working full time for his neighbor. There is not another way. The cosmic plan is being shall we say, held up slightly by certain highly evolved intelligences now on Terra, who want to soften the blow of a great catastrophe. These highly involved intelligences are suffering sheer hell, the type of hell which none of you know the slightest thing about yet, so that the karma of man may be balanced in such a way as to soften the tremendous blow which would come were these intelligences to leave you to your own blundering devices. Could you go into that a little bit about what that tremendous blow? Um, but first of all, the cosmic intelligence have been intervening on our behalf ever since Maldek, and even before. And has that blow been held up for millions of years since Maldek, and then been growing ever since, demanding more and more intervention?
To my knowledge, it have, yes. I think it was in the 60s when Dr. George King did the lecture on the rims of the masters.
Mm-hmm.
He did a series of lectures, the rims of the masters, the Great White Brotherhood, spiritual hierarchy of Earth, um, I think the spirit world, and he did one in the 70s on the cosmic plan that they actually published. He did one, the cosmic plan, in the 60s too, but in the 70s he did the one that became the most popular one, I think. And in there, in one of those lectures, he stated that, and I think you remember it too, because we talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
He stated that if the spiritual hierarchy of Earth was to lead this planet, he said the planet would go into complete chaos like 5 minutes later.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Complete. You remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you have a combination. You have the spiritual hierarchy of Earth. You have the masters of Shambhala, the new Seneca Mara, the Lord Buddha,
Mm-hmm.
and the I guess it's still 48 or 49 cosmic masters there. And you have the Lord Babaji who's the leader of the spiritual hierarchy of Earth and and the protector of the Mother Earth. Um, and then you have which I still think is part of I think it's actually a part of the city of Shambhala
Mm-hmm.
because I think it was Mana Blavatsky who, when she uncovered the teachings from that she got from the Tibetans, she said that there was a cosmic master placed over every rim of the earth, every major rim of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
They hold the balance. They hold the balance of those rims. Their presence stopped the rims from folding up and
Collapsing.
collapsing. So you have all these cosmic masters that's doing that in order to allow us to gain the necessary experience to move on from our position, our evolutionary position. So, and one of the lessons that's hard for us to learn is that we are our brother's keeper. I know it's said many, many times, but it's not demonstrated in our actions.
Hmm.
So we'll walk around day after day and know that someone needs something, know that someone is hurting, know that someone is in need of help in many, many ways, and we won't offer nothing to help them in any way because
Hmm.
we're so concerned about our own personal needs.
Hmm.
Or we just have that selfish intent inside of us. So, and that's a major problem. So if you were to stand back, you'll see constant negative karmic energy being released to the atmosphere because of our own actions.
Hmm.
Although we have the knowledge and understanding that we need to do better, but we don't. And we take on this attitude that let me take care of myself first, and then I'll see about them sometime in the future.
Hmm. Hmm.
When all physics tell you it's not done that way.
Hmm.
Your very existence should be to help everyone around you. Because in nature, there's nothing isolated.
Hmm. Hmm.
Everything in nature gives of itself, even a tiny cell. It's always exchanging, it's always helping to balance. But we, as so-called intelligent beings, don't see that, can't understand the logic in it, and refuse to help each other.
Hmm.
So, I mean, that's when you hear the master theorists say that, I think is that's that's one of the things he's saying because it's so simple that it's ridiculous. It's
Hmm.
so simple that it's actually ridiculous. And we allow our racism, our prejudice, we allow all of that to fester up and stop us from helping uh, hundreds of millions of people because of how they look, the color of their skin, the region of the world they're in. You know,
Hmm.
we allow that. And then we allow other people to mold and shape our feelings and and concept of those people, you know. So even when we are moved to action, we move to action in the wrong way,
Hmm. Hmm.
not in a balanced way, you know. Everything is controlled by greed, selfishness, uh, and it's prevalent today when with the government we have today in this country. It's very prevalent, but it's done like that.
Hmm.
You'll hear about the suffering of European countries before you hear about the real suffering of of uh, of black, brown, red, and yellow countries, which is ridiculous
Hmm.
because those black, brown, red, and yellow they may have sustained uh, uh, problems. That was most cases was not caused by them. but you'll hardly ever hear that on television,
Hmm.
on the news. The only way you'll hear about it is when some natural catastrophe come and kill 250,000 people.
Hmm.
The way we had that great tidal wave,
Hmm. Hmm.
But other than that, forget about all the the trauma and the hunger and everything else that they going through and have went through for decades. Is not news. There's no concern because it doesn't benefit the people at the top.
Hmm.
So once we realize, intelligence and enlightenment will let you know that we are here to serve our neighbors and to help our neighbors in any kind of way. So it's not about the color of their skin. It's not about their status in life. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with that if we sustain them, they sustain us.
Hmm.
And we can grow and our consciousness can rise and we can rise above the invisible walls that we have created for ourselves.
So in the new age, I assume the lower realms won't be on Earth anymore.
I guess eventually the lower realms will, in order to help bring about a balance, the lower realms will have to disappear.
Hmm.
'Cause remember, the lower realms from the ancient teachings that was written down or translated from the secret Upanishads was translated just recently, maybe 120 some years ago, 130 some years ago.
Hmm.
It was uh, it was revealed that the higher realms, the etheric realms, which is the higher realms, they they subdivided themselves in order to create the lower realms, in order to house uh, what Dr. George King called the Meldic man,
Hmm.
or the 18,600,000 some years uh, ago. So, so a great metamorphosis had to happen on on not only the physical plane, but the astral plane. The astral planes came about, which began to feed the physical plane, and the physical plane became more denser and more inert,
Hmm.
and a lot of the magnetic energy that was once on the surface of the physical plane, a lot of the elements that served that gave the plant life, the soil, even the animals that was there, gave them a higher intelligence. All of that was taken away,
Hmm.
and the people that was here had to quickly uh, vibrate to a whole nother level of existence or be taken away from here. And and because the earth was going through it was going back into more of an evolutionary cycle in order to accommodate mankind. And the very, very high realms was cut off from the people who was left here.
Hmm.
In fact, it was limited on once if you could reach the higher realms, as long as you was in a physical body, it was limited how long you could be there because of the poison how we had poisoned ourselves and continue to do.
Hmm.
All type of safeguards were set up. So, to insulate the Mother Earth and to insulate the higher beings that was here as well. But out of the grace of great, you know, great cosmic beings and like Senator Kamara and his team and the Lord Babaji,
Hmm.
they set up um, certain instruments around the world and devices so that they can still communicate to us, even though we had completely contaminated the earth.
Hmm. Hmm.
And some of those were the pyramids, as we were told by the spiritual hierarchy who spoke through Alice Bailey and Madame Blavatsky recently.
Hmm.
They told us that the pyramids were allowed the leaders of our communities to visit with the great masters of Shambhala and other places in order to come back and instruct the people. And we destroyed that.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So, so they had to keep finding different ways to communicate to us, to guide us, to do the course correct for the few that will still be here when everything's over with. So eventually the astral planes will have to be absorbed back into the higher realms, you know. I think even Dr. George King spoke about the fact that nature final forces was a hidden Upanishad.
Hmm.
It was a Rama Prasad that released that in the 1800s. And Madame Blavatsky released it in the 1800s as well.
Hmm.
And the spiritual hierarchy through Alice Bailey expanded on it in the early 1920s. And then Dr. George King put it in simple language in the 1950s and 60s and 70s.
The master theorist goes on to say, to take only one incident, if I may partially digress for the moment, Operation World Healing. And let me quickly describe what Operation World Healing is. It says in 1963, certain disease waves. Wait, can you see? No, you can't see. This is somebody, I don't know who did it, uploaded on Quizlet. I think these are study questions from the Remember Initiation book. Remember Initiate exam book? I don't know, but it's on Quizlet and they're public. In 1963, certain disease waves were being germinated in the eastern part of the world. The master theorist announced that these waves, if not stopped, would affect thousands of people, especially children, maiming and killing them due to a mutated condition of the virus causing the disease. Karma was such that the Aether Society could reduce the effect of these disease waves quite considerably. What action did the Dear Society take? Members and sympathizers of Dear Society all over the world came together in one united effort to help combat this disease by holding services of prayer and healing for a minimum of 1 hour per day, 7 days per week, for the whole 56 days of the spiritual push. At that time, from November 1st to December 26, 1963. Also during this period, His Eminence acted as primary terrestrial mental channel for 14 special power transmissions. So keep that in mind. The um, request that was made of us, uh, members, sympathizers, just human beings in general, was 1 hour a day of prayer and healing, uh, every day of the week, so 7 days a week for 56 days. So not even a whole 2 months, like a month and a half almost, and
Mhm.
more. Um, and the bulk of the work was done by His Eminence George King, which is the 14 special power transmissions that he took. Why was it necessary for the Lord Babaji to leave Earth during this operation? So as Mr. Davis mentioned earlier, the Lord Babaji and several of the cosmic masters reside upon Earth in order to, and as the Master Theorist mentioned earlier, reside upon Earth to hold in abeyance the bulk of the karmic blow due to humanity. To Lord Babaji left Earth during this operation to make a personal application to the karmic board upon the planet Saturn for enough power to be granted to Earth, which would give an absorption factor higher than 6.75 units. If you guys are not familiar with the concept of absorption factor, absorption during a spiritual push, energies spiritual energies are radiated through satellite number 3 to the to Earth to be used um, by humanity for um, spiritual healing, upliftment for all the world as a whole. So to the enhancement of all spiritual practice, spiritual service. And the absorption factor is a ratio of the amount of energy radiated through cell number 3 and the amount of energy absorbed and used by humanity. And there are different levels of absorption factor, being the danger factor, which is a very low absorption factor, to several gradients of it. And for more information about that, you can look up at their side of teachings, or you could send us a question about it, and we may do a talk about that also. Where did I stop here? Absorption factor higher than 6.75 units. This figure of 6.75 units had been declared by the master theorist as being the danger level of power absorption, which had to be reached during the spiritual push, or the disease waves could not be stopped. Okay, so what's being described here is the cosmic masters are able to calculate karma on a scale that's unimaginable to many uh, terrestrials. They're able to quantify it and qualify it um, down to 0.000001 units, to a very a scale that we couldn't even imagine. They're also able to look at something like a disease wave spreading in part of the world and can calculate exactly how much spiritual energy needed to be manipulated by humanity through prayer, through healing, through service, in order to allow an intervention to stop that in this situation a disease wave from completely devastating a population. So that also applies to many things. It can be to a natural disaster, for example, for stopping storms, stopping earthquakes, for stopping wars. They know exactly how many units of spiritual energy it would take to not allow um, a particular karmic repercussion to manifest or to take place. I don't know if I'm explaining that properly.
I mean, they say that they state it right there, don't they?
Yeah, I say it right here.
Yeah. And I remember the world emergency happened a couple of times. I was just a child at the time.
Hmm.
But I know during the Carmelite days, my family, we had prayer every day.
Hmm.
I distinctly remember that. My family came together and friends of the family who were sympathizers or members of their society. We had, we performed the 12 blessings and healing to the world on a daily basis. In fact, the first thing we did before we ate anything in the morning was pray. And the last thing we did as a group at night was to have the 12 blessings. So
Hmm.
I don't know how serious a lot of other members took that, but
Hmm.
my
Hmm.
parents took it very seriously.
Hmm.
So,
Okay. And so next to that, whilst the Lord Babaji was absent from Earth, in other words, when the Lord Babaji had to leave, vacate his position on Earth, his position and his um, work of holding the karmic in abeyance, and to go to Saturn to make an appeal for more spiritual energy to be granted to Earth than would be allowed had that appeal not been made in order to bring the absorption factor up to 6.75. But in his absence, Lord Babaji's absence, that caused another emergency situation because now that with Lord Babaji not there to hold the karma in abeyance, um, it put humanity in a precarious position. So whilst Babaji was absent from Earth, what cosmic intelligence acted on his behalf? The Lord Babaji's position was taken over by the Lord Buddha. The position vacated by the Lord Buddha in Shambhala, remember that the Lord Buddha at this time and currently was took over the position of the Senate Kumara in Shambhala. And so the Lord Buddha left his position in Shambhala and was taking over the Lord Babaji's position, but that left the Lord Buddha's position in Shambhala vacant. And so in the Lord Buddha's position in Shambhala was then occupied by Sri Krishna in full aspect, right? Not in the um, aspect that we knew of Sri Krishna um, from the Hindu teachings, but in the full aspect. And if you have more information on that, you can look at the lecture, The Four Aspects of Creation. And to what extent was Operation World Healing successful? Give your answer in a percentage. And it said 95% after an absorption factor of 8.5 units was reached during the spiritual push. So through the efforts, uh, uh, primary terrestrial mental channel for those 14 spiritual power transmissions, the cosmic masters, and the few sympathizers and members who participated, an absorption factor of 8.5 was reached, um, allowing for successful manipulation of energies and of Operation World Healing. So I went to that. Um, this background information about Operation World Healing. So I'm going to go back and read the extra from the transmission. We'll have more understanding of what uh, Master Theorist is talking about here. So to take only one incident, if I may partially digress for a moment, Operation World Healing. Only a handful out of 11 million thought a second thing about this, though 11 million were told in a way that they could at least recognize the danger that scores of people upon Terra would perish if they did not pray most fervently and send out healing power. So what he's talking about here is at the time leading up to Operation World Healing, transmissions, announcements, uh, flyers, notifications, all types of avenues were employed by society at the time to inform humanity of Operation Healing and the necessity and dire need of Operation World Healing. And if you listen to the transmission Operation World Healing, I think that's the name of it. No, sorry. Listen to the transmission become build of a new age. Yeah, in there is the master theorist goes into exactly how they were able to, they knew exactly how many people on Earth um, received that information, either heard about it or read about it in some way or another, in a way that they were able to recognize or comprehend the information that was sent to them when they put that at 11 million. And so out of the 11 million that had received notification or knew about or were told about the transmission and were able to consciously understand the severity of it, a very small minority actually did something. And this goes back to what Mr. Davis was talking about earlier, that we are all our brother's keeper. We all know that we're supposed to help each other and render service to each other, but most of us just ignore that. And this was such an important issue that the master theorist himself felt necessary to address it. Like 11 million who heard about Operation World Healing, a very, 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 very small proportion of people actually came forward to participate. And it wasn't asking much, just 1 hour a day um, of healing, of prayer, um, 7 days a week for a month and a half. Uh, that one incident, besides your wars and carnage through history, that one incident alone could bring you the type of catastrophe which would make you reel for 20 lives. So, what Master Theus is pointing out here is our failure to, as a human race as a whole, just in one incident, Operation World Healing, had even half of those 11 million participated, 7.5 million, no, 7.5 million, what am I doing? 5.5 million participated in Operation World Healing, the results would have changed the world immediately. Not just for the manipulation of um, this disease, but would have changed the world immediately. And in other lectures and transmissions, the masters talk about that, the number of people it would take to change humanity overnight. He goes on to say in a further extract on page 9 to 10, talking further about building a new age and part of where my questions came from. So in the coming year, um, this is in 1967, right? I think so, yeah. So in the coming year, great opportunities will be given to you. You will be watched most carefully. 1964. You will be given the chance to prepare yourself to be one of the minority ready to go forward as builders of the new age, or you will be a failure and join the comfort-loving, truth-shirking masses. That is the message for 1964, and I believe that still applies today. Even to this very day, we're still given great opportunities to be um, builders of the new age. Um, yes, Carmelite and Alien Mission, and those missions are finished already, but we still have great opportunities to this day to participate in world healing and spiritual upliftment. Um, so that this message still applies today and will continue to apply, I believe, for the next 1,000 years as um, the spiritual push will continue into the future. It is a message which should fill you with tremendous fire, great vitality, And you should see that the powers that be are getting a move on and are speaking to you in a way that you can plainly understand, no matter who you be. You should recognize this as a chance to prove yourselves, because, my friends, you'll be given this chance, and it will be up to you whether you take it or leave it. You will always be allowed to exercise your so-called free will. You can choose whether or not you will suffer limitation or whether you will start training now to be a builder of the new age. Great lecture is from free will to freedom, freedom to free will, where His Eminence George King talks about the difference between free will and freedom, and um, why it is so important that we choose freedom. You can choose whether or not you will suffer limitation, or whether you will start training now to be a builder of the new age. Remember what I said. For the most part, the new age will be built up from the very soil, and only the true builders, the men of courage, the men of determination, the men who can tear themselves away from their comfortable armchairs, who can boldly go out into a winter night, who can shut with determination that confounded hypnotic drugging box, the television set, or the cell phone, or the computer these days, off once and for all, are the men who will be wanted. Now, my questions come from here, from the very soil. In the transmission, the master theorist talks about many people believe that the new age will come, and I don't want to mess up. I don't want to quote exactly because I'm going to mess it up. But he says no, not necessarily so. The new age will be, for some, the new age will be built up from the desert, and they'll have to the strong will have to provide for the the old, the weak, and the very young. Basically, saying humanity will be set back to hunter-gatherer type of civilization, and everything will have to be destroyed and then rebuilt up, like I said here, from the very soil. And it made me wonder, what was the master theorist referring to? Yes, it's clearly stated there, but is is he saying that there has to be a total collapse of civilization at present, human civilization at present, and from the ashes, from the very soil, the new age will be built?
It could be either or. It's going to be different everywhere. Um, and you know, many years ago, I tell you a story about about close to 40 years ago. I was traveling, and I did a lot of traveling on the road. I would rent a car or drive where I wanted to go, and I was visiting certain towns in certain regions of the country. And and back then I was uh I was paying close attention to my spiritual development. So I restricted myself in many different ways.
Hmm.
And one of the things I noticed is when I come to a town, I was able to see the aura that developed around that town because of the group consciousness of that town.
Hmm.
And it always stunned me. It's just because you have all these preconceived ideals of this, that, and the other, and and almost every time your preconceived ideals was totally wrong.
Hmm.
It was
Hmm.
totally wrong. I mean, based on the news, based on newspaper, writings, based on word of mouth, what people told you, and it was just completely wrong. So, you know, I began to rely on what I knew from a metaphysical point of view. And and since I was a student of metaphysics, I would I would pay close attention to the exchange of energies. And when those energies exchange, what is the result of that? You know, because a lot of times some of the backwoods, so-called racist places I went, and the stories that was told, it wasn't that. And then sometimes it was, but not at the extent that it was,
Hmm.
you know. And so that taught me that it's the exchange of energy, it's the attitude, is how the people who live there cherish, love, and pollute that area either with good energy or bad energy, positive energy, negative energy. You understand?
Hmm. Hmm.
So I realized that I cannot be swayed you know, by what people say. I have to look at things as they are, not as I may want to see it or not as someone else want to see it.
Hmm.
And sometimes a lot of people don't like that, that they'll come and tell you that the house is burning down, that person is evil, this, that, and that. And then I come and I look at that person and I say, wait a minute, this is a spiritual person. This is a loving person. This person have a great care and feeling for what they're doing. You may not like how they express it, but it's real. So, I noticed that from my travels. So I always try to give people the benefit of the doubt before I, judge them according to what everyone telling me who they are, you know, because they can be one way, they can appear to be one way, but deep down there's something totally different,
Hmm.
you know. And I met very spiritual people like that too. No mystic, no whatever. I guess they were a mystic in their own right, but they were like highly orthodox. But the key quality of their actions is that they cared and they was always willing to give. And they can have nothing, but they feel good in their skin because they gave everything. And in all their ignorance and all their whatever, their actions spoke loud, and it gave them this beautiful aura about themselves. And they always seemed to have what they needed, even though it wasn't much. But but it's because they believed whatever they believed, they carried it out with their action, and that was to help their neighbor,
Hmm.
you know. Even though their neighbor can be a racist, whatever, this and that, they still gave that love to that person. Even though their neighbor probably would have chopped their head off. But the thing about it, when a person get to that position, it's hard for the neighbor to do anything to them.
Mm.
Because just like a wild beast know who's there to help them and who's there to hurt them.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that's a big difference. So I say all that to say that the new age will come, but it'll come, it won't come the same everywhere. because the people who care, who come to that realization, they will create the aura or the group consciousness for their area. And things may work in unison. They'll have that Amanda effect, the Shati Amanda effect.
Hmm.
They will have that effect for that particular area. And everything clicks, but then you go outside of that area and the elements of the earth, the elements of the solar system, the elements of the galaxy cannot reach there. There's no absorption factor there
Hmm. Hmm.
because the people have polluted the area so much that even the gods can't give them the necessary energy and resource they need until they
Hmm.
change their mind. Because when you have that, when you come to that, it changes the soil of the ground that you stand on.
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
the same way gravity meet you where you are to so that you don't float off into the sky is the same way when you release that love energy, that caring energy, that highly intelligent uh, exchange of responsibility. When you begin to strictly abide by the laws of karma and take care of everything around you, then the earth will respond to you in kind because it's the law.
Hmm.
It's the law itself. So the soil underneath your feet will begin to exchange the energy, the element X energy with you and much more so that you can accomplish more, do more, be more, know more. So it's not it may not happen the same way everywhere until it eventually that will spread around the world.
Okay. That's interesting. So in some places there could be the coming of the new age or the building of the new age. In some places it can be great upheaval right down to the very soil you mentioned, or some places it can come quite easily or quite, I don't say easily, but the transition will be depending on the consciousness of the group consciousness of whoever it is or they are.
Right. And remember Dr. King said it's probably best that we try to make things easier for the next master,
Right. Hmm.
by reaching that point, you know. And the reason that even Madam Blavatsky talked about this, and I think Dr. King kind of gave it a more down to earth understanding when he traveled to the 18 mountains to have them charged. And he talked about these places being a sacred place and that most human beings was not allowed to to uh to go to these places. And that's why they were the way they are, that they elevated far above sea level
Hmm.
and made it difficult physically difficult for most people to climb the mountain and go there and do whatever. Madhavalaski talked about this. Swami Rama talked about it. Most great masters talked about the fact that it allowed the divas to and not only divas but even some of the cosmic masters, spiritual hierarchy to do operations or be there because it lacked human presence and it was not contaminated by the negative minus energy that man speared out everywhere,
Hmm.
and into the soil. So those were sacred places because of that. In fact, some of them talked about how they would see uh, intelligent beings appear and disappear, you know, as they traveled through those sacred places to either, and back in the day they went there for meditation. In the modern times, Dr. George King instructed people to go there to release energy, you know. But when you go back and read what and study what the Malamalasky and all the rest of them, they talk about these places being sacred. They talk about not too many people will be able to live there, you know.
Hmm, hmm, hmm,
Also, the same with the polar regions of the earth. It was done that way and for a reason to discourage uh, the unenlightened, you know, to stay away from there.
hmm, hmm.
You know, they were the land of the divas. That's how they described it.
Now, there's this recurring theme in many of the transmissions of the Cosmic Masters, and even teachings by masters and adepts of the past, like especially in Buddhism and so forth. This rejection of comfort. Um, an example here. For the most part, builders are very slow, and only the true builders, the men of courage, men of determination, the men who can tear themselves away from their comfortable armchairs and and who can shut with determination that confound hypnotic drugging box telling that once and for all are the men who will be wanted. And I believe it was Saint Guling who said an adept did not become an adept because he loved comfort. It is so, and it'll always be so. So there's this idea of kind of rejecting the what's the word? The temptation of comfort in order to um, truly grow and be fit for the new age. And then
Yeah,
so then how
I
then
mean,
should we how then shall we is that modern society is comfortable. That's part one of the goals of the society and technology and things like that. It is to make our lives more comfortable, make our lives more livable, to allow as many people as possible to live as opposed to, ages past where we were very quite agrarian lifestyles, but it's now very comfortable. We don't have to farm and things like that. I can just go to the grocery store and buy food. Yes,
well,
farming is
well,
done, but life is much more comfortable now with
well,
the
well,
advancement.
well, you could say that, but then you miss the real point of what they're saying, and you're not aware of what's going on. You know, the comfort can put you in a position, put all of us in a position of ignorance to a certain degree. And
Hmm.
because now when you ask people, I mean, people graduating from school today, they don't know what a second hand is on a clock.
Oh, a second hand. I'm gonna watch that clock in.
You understand?
Hmm, hmm, hmm,
Which may seem, oh, we don't need that. We got technology. But what if you don't have the energy to produce a digital clock?
hmm, hmm, hmm,
Do you know how to create a second hand from the elements of the earth so
hmm,
you'll know what time it is?
hmm,
You understand?
hmm, hmm, hmm,
It brings you to a state of ignorance on many, many levels. If you had to uh, if you had to cook for yourself or plant your own food, can you do it?
hmm,
Do you know what the seeds are? Do you know what the vines or vegetables around your neighborhood? You know what's the native food of the area in which you decide to live in? Do you know the grade of the soil so that you can plant, grow, eat, whatever? If everything go, the comfort bring you to a state of ignorance where that doesn't mean anything to me anymore
Hmm.
until it does, you know. Many years ago, when I was a child, there was something that was popular about I think they used to call it homeopathic medicine. You ever heard of that?
Yes. Hmm.
The scientists, a lot of scientists say, "Oh, that's foolishness. That doesn't mean nothing." Da, 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 da. But they began to use that same scientist, that same the mathematics of that science, the electronic configuration of the elements of that science. They began to use that same science, but to do not to heal you, but to capitalize on that type of science so that they can make money off of you, so that they can preserve the food that they sell to you, all at the same time contaminating the food that they sell to you,
Hmm.
such as the modern convenience, such as the comfort that all of us
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
uh, enjoy, you know. And I don't know if you know what some of the homeopathic formulas that people was using. You remember what they were or how
Like
they work?
kind of. You mean like the teas and the using of leaves and roots
No, it
and
was more than that.
seeds.
Let's say if they had if they had medicine here. Let's just take medicine off a shelf, which but it wasn't a shelf. It was usually some type of plant, some type of herbal medicine
Hmm.
that was very strong. But if you used it wrong, you could hurt yourself. It's poison to a certain degree.
Hmm.
But a lot of medicine that mankind put on shelf, they counterbalance it with other things so that you don't die from it or you don't get overly sick, but you're going to have some discomfort.
Hmm. Hmm.
With a homeopathic medicine, what some of the things that they used to do, they used to dilute uh, that herb, that medicine, or whatever, to the point where you can only have the beneficial effects of it.
Hmm. Hmm.
You understand?
Hmm.
So they'll say we'll dilute this by 50 parts but first they start at 25 parts by 35 parts by 45 parts, all the way up to 100 or 1,000. And what they found, the same way you on a number line, you have positive and negative. They'll find the positive position, the negative position on that, with that particular uh, medicine or combination of elements to help heal you. They'll find a position that it can heal you without the side effects.
Hmm.
Okay. So, well, scientists found that they could do that, well, let's say with cyanide,
Hmm. Hmm.
and they can push it to a point where it becomes more of a preservative than something deadly.
Hmm. Hmm.
In other words, it'll give the food shelf life by a factor of 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that's what comfort brings you. You understand?
Hmm.
Technology. So what are we told by the masters for thousands of years is the intention of the knowledge that you have when you place that knowledge into action. The intention of why you place it into action is the comic factor or the comic strategy to gain the result that you're looking for. That's what's going to create whether it's going to be positive karma or negative karma.
Hmm. Hmm.
So those are things we need to think about when we're thinking about comfort. It's always the intention and why are we doing this? How are we using this technology? The technology we have today could be used far and and in a better manner in which we use it for. Because now
Hmm.
we use it for comfort, we use it for entertainment, we use it for more negative things than good things.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So, and then therefore it gives us more time to do what with? Are we helping the world?
Hmm.
Are we trying to solve problems or are we sleeping more?
Hmm.
Are we trying to make more money so that we can just do more selfish stuff instead of stuff for people? Are we balancing that time to put more work in to solve people problems or humanity's problems? You know, those are things you need to think about because talking to most people today, they don't care about their neighbors.
Hmm.
They
Hmm.
don't even care about their neighborhood. They add the I forget the psychological term they call it. What it's called. It's like a helpless type state.
Like a,
Where they say, well, it doesn't matter what I do. Doesn't matter
oh,
how I
oh,
vote. It doesn't matter how I vote. It's still going to be this, that, and that.
like
How do you know
a type
that?
of
Because
apathy. Yeah.
yeah, how you know that if you don't create the action and count your steps, predetermine your actions to create the right result. If you just give up, of course you'll never affect it.
Hmm. Hmm.
You know, it's like the behavioral scientists or that they uh, I think Dr. Joy talks about it, where she which I heard it before her, but she explains it very well. She said, well, what they did, they took a dog and they put the dog in a cage, and they was a special made cage where they electrified certain corners of the room.
Hmm.
So the dog went in the cage, and then what they would do, they would flash a red light, and then they would electrocute the floor. So the dog would run to the up to the next part of the cage where he or she would not be affected by it.
Hmm.
So every time the dog seen the flash, the red light, the dog ran to safety. And they kept that up until it became like the instinct of the dog to do that.
Hmm.
Then they came back and they adjusted the cage so that it didn't matter where the dog moved, the dog was going to get electrified. And they would flash a light, they not flash a light, they turn the lights off. So what did the dog do? The dog became complacent. The dog, when the light flashed, when the electrical came, it just sat in one place and took the pain.
Hmm.
So it seemed like today, the young people, a lot of them, they not responding to anything. They lost faith that they can change anything. Some of them get out there and fight, but even now they're being led instead of being led by people who went through the fight and succeeded. They rather go to artificial means to learn to do things like
Hmm.
Google or AI or ChatGPT,
Hmm.
which can
Hmm.
be feeding them anything
Hmm.
instead of them having learned experience,
Hmm. Hmm.
instead of them having evidence from a personality, from someone who can register thousands of emotions and then speak about it. So that's the problem with comfort.
Hmm.
So at the drop of the bump, when I was in high school, if we wanted to learn something, we had to go make time to go to either the school library or the public library and spend hours in there to research. We couldn't punch a button to, to get information.
Hmm.
Couldn't do that. Or we had to have a favorite teacher in a particular subject that can expound upon what we read or studied or found, and that can direct us to written documentation to to uh, to get more information on that particular thing. Date, times, events, you know, personal experiences. Today they just take the word of anything that pop up on the screen,
Hmm.
thinking
Hmm.
that it's right when and a lot of times it's absolutely wrong until that computer system get the right reach to reach deep into a subject.
Okay, so finish up here. It says choose whether you will be one of the masses or one of the builders. If you are one of the masses, you will be reborn upon another younger world, and there, I might tell you, you will have a much more difficult job than building a new age on your Earth. Um, so we can go into that next time. Um, so if you are wise, if you are truly practical, you will give these statements your most earnest consideration. That is the crux of my message at this time. It is a message, as a few of you will agree, of great hope because it promises great opportunity. So this is an extract from Build of a New Age, which is a booklet that you can purchase. It's also on the cloud, Theories Cloud. There is a Builder of the New Age transmission that you can listen to as well. Okay. So there was one question here, and we'll wrap up with this question. I think you mentioned you responded to it already. Um, the question reads, how does reading, learning, and writing, or how is reading, learning, and writing the foundation for deep learning of any mystic, okay, any of the importance to writing and mystic science? So I think the question, I'm trying to reword the question. How is reading, learning, and writing foundational for uh, deep learning of any mystic science, mystic view, or important mystic science?
This is a good question because a lot of the so-called New Age people today or young people today, they think they could just go to YouTube or Google and get something and they can learn it and they can begin to apply it. No, you cannot. Detailed study of anything, what it does, it seeds your mental bodies and your auric body, and it configure your your auric makeup to attract the right knowledge and insight on things. Once you make something a part of yourself and you deeply study it and understand it and look at it, when you see things, you'll see them, you will see things differently from 1 day ago, 2 days ago, 1 year ago, 5 years ago. Because why? You have taken that knowledge into yourself to become a part of you. And it began to open up realms of mind and consciousness to you that wasn't previously open because you just did not know. And that's the big difference. You know, if you've never seen fire before and for the first time you've seen a giant flame of fire, You may run right into it and burn yourself up. And only to be born again to go through a similar experience. Or you may have a fear of the fire the next time you see it, because why? You have embedded that experience inside your auric fields. So you gotta, you gotta be aware of things. Of course you can learn more from a visual point of view. You can learn more from the hearing point of view. But what are you learning if your mind or your mental bodies, if you haven't structured yourself or your mental makeup, if you haven't, aligned it to take that knowledge in. If you don't have a proper glass to receive the water that you want to drink, most of the water going to fall through your hands and hit the ground. So everything you get, you have to prepare yourself for it. So that's where the detailed study come in at. That's where a teacher, a guide comes in at. Other than that, you're trying to catch the flow of water through your hands, and majority of it is going to go right through. It's going to waste out because it cannot contain it. So, that's why you have a lot of these people doing, in my opinion, foolish things when it comes to uh, the New Age or the mysticism or metaphysics, and they have no guidelines. They just believe anything, think anything, just and like they know open some altered universe or something, and they fool themselves of these things. They actually believe it. You know, I went to one person's house and they felt like uh, I think their cat had just went into an altered universe because the cat was no longer there. You know, they
Mhm.
was missing a cat and the cat had been, and the cat had died.
Mm.
I couldn't tell them that, but as simple as that. But the spouse that knew that they had died did not say nothing to the other spouse. But it's just, but because she was into metaphysics, both of them was into metaphysics, they allowed this illusion to go on.
Hmm.
And that's what people do. So study hard, learn hard, do it in detail, make it make sense, and then practice. Apply the knowledge and practice.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank
that's
you.
it.
Yeah, thank you, Ben, for that question. All right, so if you have any additional questions or comments, you can feel free to send them to us via email, Mystic Knowledge Center, all one word, at gmail.com. Let us know if you are okay with us answering the question and publicly in a subsequent session. Otherwise, we'll respond to you privately. Any comments, recommendations, or suggestions, again, feel free to email us as well. And we will do our best to respond to your questions or inquiries or recommendation. All right, so let us close out today's session, a reciting of the New Lord's Prayer. The New Lord's Prayer. O divine and wondrous Spirit, O everlasting Lord of hosts, send forth now through me thy great and lasting power. Allow me, Almighty God, the lasting privilege of radiating to all the world thy great love, so that those who suffer may be given the power and energy to rise above their weaknesses. Almighty God, in great humility do I ask you to send forth your power, to give to me this great lasting privilege of being a channel, so that my suffering brothers may be helped and guided and healed and lifted into thy light, so that they who know not may look up, and in doing so receive to their higher selves your divine counsel. Almighty God, this day have you granted me a divine privilege. I ask you now to give to me the strength, so that never again will I turn from my inner vision of you. O great peace, great peace, great peace. In praise of your greatness, O God, doth my soul sing, granted energy to sing on forever and forever. All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for your kind attendance and participation. And again, if you have any questions or comments, suggestions, or recommendations, feel free to send us an email. Let us know if there are classes, videos that are private and you would like access to. Again, send us an email, preferably from the account that's tied to your YouTube account, from the email account that's tied to your YouTube account, as well as a link to the video you are requesting access to. And if approved, I'll go ahead and provide you access. Then you should receive an email from Google, from YouTube, informing you that you've been granted access. Anything else? Send us an email. And if you would like to participate in our weekly 12 blessing services or any other commercial services that we hold through the South Florida Society group, you can find our group on MeetUp, and you can join that group there as well, and you will receive announcements of when we hold our services. All right, thanks again, and we'll see you next time. Have a good week.